Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Debt Stories, real people beating debt and winning financially. Today, we meet Megan, 33, who lives in Salt Lake City with her husband and 2 young children. She's a full-time hospice nurse working nights, and her husband is a graduate student studying clinical psychology. He's not allowed to work. Their debt story includes the usual cast of characters: student loans, credit cards, a house, but the plot really thickened when their first son was born.
My husband and I got married and we both had some credit card debt, nothing too serious, and really high student loans to us. Together, we had about $50,000 in student loans.
Next came the mortgage.
We bought a house about 2 months after we got married, and we just started living the normal life. We weren't really worried about debt, paying minimums on things.
So they cruised along, making those minimum payments on their debts until the birth of their first son.
My insurance was pretty poor at the time. That birth cost $12,000. He was a C-section, and he was in the NICU for a week, and it was just very unexpected. And then I worked extra. I worked really hard, and we paid that off. And then when I got pregnant again with my second child, I did not want to have that happen. So I actually looked online and I said, I'm going to figure out a way to be totally prepared. And I want to have a maternity leave without concern. And I found YNAB.
And then Megan got busy.
It hasn't been that long, but since finding it, we really discovered all the leaks in our finances and started working really hard at paying off debt.
And she means working really hard in the literal sense.
I started picking up extra shifts. I let the other nurses know that they can call me anytime if they don't want to go on a visit. We get paid per visit after hours. And so that's been incredibly helpful to make extra money.
It's always a huge milestone for new budgeters when they're able to break the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle by getting 1 month ahead of their bills. But Megan did not stop there.
I just started putting the money in, and I was able to get 3 months ahead so that when I did have my son, I did have maternity leave totally paid. It was there, and I could see it in YNAB. So there was no stress. I knew we were covered, and I had a different insurance at that time, and the max was $6,000. And so I actually had $6,000 set aside as well.
With their insurance covering $6,000 of hospital expenses and $6,000 plus money for her maternity leave saved, they were ready for baby number 2 to arrive. Megan was working more, a lot more, but she and her husband also cut back, as you do, in order to meet their savings goal. And that meant reining in their dating life.
Because we work opposite each other, I think part of it was we want to go on dates when we get the time. So a lot of eating out. We didn't realize that $30 here, $30 there, $30 there. It actually adds up to hundreds of dollars.
And then there were her husband's lunches.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that my husband was eating lunch at the cafeteria every day. I mean, I knew he was, but I didn't realize that it was between $9 and $11 every day. And that really adds up super fast.
When she pointed out that on-campus lunches were costing them hundreds of dollars per month, Megan's husband agreed that it just wasn't worth it.
He was incredible. I showed it to him, and I said, look, this is honestly over $200 just for you to eat at lunch. We can make a salad for a lot less money. And so I got a really good meal keeper, and I make dinner at night, and we pack it right after dinner when I'm putting leftovers away. He just grabs that in the morning, and that's worked incredibly well. He's like, it actually is a lot better than the salad, and so he's thrilled, and so am I.
Packed lunches were a win-win. As for their dates,
we've just tried to be a little bit smarter about how much we spend when we go on a date. So occasionally we will go to a nicer restaurant, but if we might want to go get a picnic and go somewhere, or go grab something that's a lot less expensive, maybe $15 versus $30. And we just have a set aside amount that we're okay spending, and that's what we stick to. And then if we want to go out again and the money's not there, that it can come from our fund money.
Before YNAB, they'd been spending $300 to $350 per month on dates. Now Megan says they keep it between $50 and $100. Do they feel deprived?
Not at all. I couldn't be happier.
We see it all the time, folks. Control over your money feels good. And with her husband's lunches in check and their dating budget slashed, naturally, Megan turned an eye towards groceries.
I'm still working on them, but yeah, it's definitely my biggest struggle. But I found that we were definitely having food waste. And a lot of the issue was I would buy something and then discover that I wanted something else. So I go to the grocery store again. And I'm working on just saying, you have food here, cook what you have, and, you can get that other thing next week.
Even though they saved enough to cover the birth of their second child and her maternity leave, Megan continued to take on extra work. She saved up so much that when her husband's stipend checks came in during her maternity leave, they didn't even need them.
So that's actually when I started paying on his student loans. And it was really cool that every 2 weeks I was able to send a check to student loans when I wasn't making any money. To actually be able to pay so much on student loans when I'm not even making a penny through my work, that's incredible.
Things were looking good. And that's when Megan's insurance policy changed. Just a week before her scheduled C-section, Megan was notified that she was responsible for paying her coverage premiums.
It was the same company. They paid them when I had my first kid, when I was on maternity leave, but they had changed their policy and they didn't tell me about it. So a week before I'm going in to have my second, I found out that I was going to have to pay about $300 a month. I was pretty stressed about that. So I went home and moved some things around. And then I talked to my boss and I just said, look, if I can do some work a few hours from home on the computer, this is one of the things that I had asked them to do so I could save up for this, is to audit charts. They said, yeah, you can still do that as much as you want. And so I said, yeah, I'll do that while I'm on maternity leave. And so when my kiddos were asleep, I would pop in and work a little bit. And I actually was able to work a little bit more to cover even more than my premiums. And so I asked them to hold all of that check and just put it towards my HSA, which was new.
Now, what I love about this is that Megan had more money in her budget that she could have moved to cover the unexpected premiums, but she didn't want to empty her car fund, so she got creative. Instead of settling for the obvious, depleting the budget or cutting her maternity leave short, Megan negotiated a third option that brought in more money without taking her away from her newborn. Megan's husband has another year and a half left in school, so for now, they're living on his stipend and her paychecks. She continues to pick up extra hours from work to boost her income, and it's paying off.
Every penny that I have extra at the end of the month, I send to my husband's student loans. Mine are now paid off, and I feel like we're killing it. I am so excited. I can hardly stand it. As of today, we paid off $17,000 of his.
That's well over $1,000 a month, and they'll be in even better shape when her husband begins working.
It'll be great. If I can continue the way that we have been each month, and I see no reason why we won't be able to, it'll either be between summer and Christmas of next year that we will be out of all debt except for our mortgage.
Well, almost.
We have 2 car loans, and they add up to about $5,000 together. And they're such low APR that I'm not worried about them. I want to get the student loans.
She's got her priorities straight. Amazing. In just a little over a year from now, they'll be totally free of student loans. When it comes to sharing financial responsibility, Megan says,
Well, one of the things that I feel grateful for, and I don't know what it is, but my husband's phenomenal, and he's been my partner in this. I definitely am the one that does it like 95% of the way. He puts in his spending, and he trusts me to do the rest, which I'm really grateful that he's been on board.
And they've worked together to find room in the budget for the important things.
He wanted to do a podcast. So he's getting stuff together for that. And he said, hey, I don't have enough money in here in YNAB for this microphone. So do you want me to just put it on a different category? And I said, no, that's not how it works. So he took a bunch of his school books. He put them up online and sold them so he could get his microphone. And he was thrilled. And I think it meant more to him because he could, it's not like he just bought it. He worked for it, and then he was so happy when they arrived. It was really cool.
Another creative maneuver, this time trading in books for podcast equipment, which is apropos. Dispensing the wisdom you learned from those books through the new microphone and sharing that knowledge with the world. Very cool. And then there's the family activity budget.
I think the non-negotiable was just the stuff that we do together as a family. Our quality of life section is still more than I think most people would put when I look on the blogs and the Facebook group. But our family time is worth more to me than anything else. I mean, that's why we're doing this. And so when I want to take my kids to, the children's museum or the zoo or whatever it is, I have several memberships throughout the valley, and they are really expensive. And initially I thought we shouldn't spend that kind of money, but I am at home all day with my kids, and I want to be able to take them and play and give them those kinds of experiences. And that's one place that I definitely could have been more reserved. And we talked about it, and it's worth it.
One particularly memorable purchase was tickets to see Martin Short and Steve Martin.
Those two are my father-in-law's favorite comedians.
Megan's husband really wanted to surprise his dad.
He went on YNAB and he's like, okay, babe, it's like $300 the tickets that I can see them online. It was front row when he logged in, and he said, this is worth it to me. He went through his fund money and his podcast money and like Christmas for him, and like he rolled up all of these things together so he could get these for his dad. It was totally worth it. I mean, he could not have been happier, and he still talks about it. And my husband was so thrilled. And before, I would have been really stressed about buying that kind of high ticket item. But we could see that it was totally doable.
Guilt-free indulgence, the best kind.
YNAB has helped me see that your money is there to serve you. You are not a slave to your money. And I felt like before this, I felt like I was working, and I didn't really know where my money went. And I'd get stressed when big bills would come up. I'd get, my auto insurance, or, dang it, it's time to renew my registration on my car. And I never saw them coming. Now I know in November, I have 3 or 4 things, big ticket money items that all of a sudden come up in the same month. And no big deal this year. It's really, really nice to not have those little heart attacks. And in the previous years, everything else just would go on a credit card because, oops, I just spent my paycheck on all those other things, and we still have to eat and have gas and all of the things that you still need to do. But now it's all there, and now I just don't have those stresses. Money used to stress me out, and now it makes me just happy and secure in my life. And it really is, thanks to YNAB. It's an incredible program.
What I find remarkable about Megan's story is that she had the big emergency, a $12,000 medical bill, but she didn't blame her money worries on that. She dug deeper and realized that it was just as critical to mind the smaller details, the $9 salads and extra hours here and there at work, even selling her husband's old textbooks. It all adds up, and we have more control than we think. If you're struggling with your own debt story, I hope this story inspires you to get creative and take control. If Megan can do it, so can you.